Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 7 of the BFBS AFVRC. And we welcome you to the Garden of England, of course, Kent in the southeast. We're here for round 7 of what's been an exciting season so far. And the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is going to be our venue for tonight. Just over 2.4 miles and a reverse top 10 grid second race for 15 minutes. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, subbing for the slightly unwell David Christie. So David, hopefully you get well soon, buddy. And I'm joined by his usual partner in crime. Very good evening to John Knighton. John, how are you?
I'm very well, Alex. Nice to have you along this evening. And yeah, my echo what you just said there. Hope you get well soon, David. Good to have you back, hopefully as soon as. But just sit back and enjoy, because I think we're in for an exciting two events, aren't we, tonight? Rounds 13 and 14 of this Armed Forces virtual race challenge tonight. And as you see, we've already been all around the country. We're in Japan last week at Okayama, Knock Hill, Snetterton, Donington, Brands Hatch already with the Indy track, and started off at Silverstone. And still to come, of course, Alton Park, Silverstone, the National Circuit, and the Donington National Circuit as well. So taking us all around the UK, and indeed a flyaway last week. And we've had some fantastic racing, Alex, over the last 7 weeks. It's been brilliant.
Yes, we have, John. Okayama was the mystery round that was revealed at the end of the Knock Hill doubleheader at an iconic. This kind of championship gives me a bit of British Touring Car Championship vibes. You know, Brands Hatch Indy, Brands Hatch GP, always on the calendar. But there has been a lot of titanic battling. I still remember as far back as Donington Park, where we had the likes of Ryan Martin and a few others going into the final lap, going into all places. So what we're going to have a look now is Ryan Martin is leading the championship at 1,109 points. Chris Pauly, Will Fawkes Chris and Will were the other two drivers I was trying to remember, but I couldn't remember for the life of me. But that has just revitalised my memory banks. Tom Stevens and Stuart McFadden round out the top 5. Chris Boland, James King, John Finch, Ollie Wayne, and Craig Durant round out the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. So there's still time to play for over this and the next 3 rounds. Of course, the Royal Air Force have a commanding lead, and they do say, John, that numbers mean everything, especially when it comes to a team's championship. But there's still an opportunity for the Royal Navy and the British Army to gain further points on the board tonight, because this track is brutal. The barriers are quite close to the track surface itself, and it can bite back hard at certain times, when we're probably going to see 3 wide going maybe into places like Hawthorns Bend, through them, down the Minter Straight into Westfields. There's a lot of places where these drivers will be caught out.
Oh yes, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think we've probably already seen that a bit in qualifying. But just looking at the list so far, Alex, just seeing who's up there, the usual suspects. Ryan Martin, Chris Pauly, Darren Berry's good to see him up there. And Michael Clough, who really last week was produced some outstanding driving, particularly in the second race over there in Japan. Had what is probably his best, certainly his best round so far in this championship. And it's good to see Cloughie back there. And Ryan Martin, though, looking very, very strong indeed, as is Tom Stevens and Chris Pauly. But still a way to go yet. We've still got quite a few races, or a few laps to go in qualifying tonight, and a lot to play for. Of course, last week the spin of the dice with this reverse grid after the second race did give some drivers a real opportunity. And they took those opportunities as well. So lovely stuff last week. But back here in terra firma in the UK, and it's one of the iconic tracks, isn't it? Brands Hatch, certainly this GP circuit as well. But as you say, Alex, there's a lot of twists and turns for the drivers to have to deal with tonight, and I suspect we may have a few comings together as the races progress.
Yes, there could be some elbows out very much in these Toyota GR86 Cup cars, which are actually being used in real life. And we have got some information from Splunk, who are providing telemetry data all the way through the season. You can see the different inputs from, say, throttle in comparison with Cluffy and also with Ryan Martin. You can see that Cluffy's using a lot more brake around the circuit as opposed to Ryan, who seems to be a lot more committed. That is well over 75% worth of throttle from Ryan Martin, and that is why he's currently over 0.3 of a second quicker than the number 89 of Tom Stevens. Matty Chambers in third position on a 1 minute 38.24. Very, very close between the top 7, rounded out by the number 5 of Adam Barron, as Chris Slater goes up into that position now. And you now see the telemetry side-by-side comparison. And Steve Ward, who at the moment is currently down in 17th position, is nearly on the same amount of throttle. Oh, and as I say that, Steve Ward has inexplicably, he's dumped the car somewhere on the circuit.
He disappeared off the radar just for just for the moment. Yeah, I think hopefully we'll have him back very soon. Maybe even see where he came a cropper. But yeah, good to see Chris Slater up there. Chris has had a pretty tough time, shall we say, so far in this championship, and he blames it on lack of practice. But certainly the likes of Matty Chambers will be very keen to put themselves up into a strong position tonight, as will Craig Durrant as well. But Ryan Martin, as you say, looking very, very strong indeed for that pole position.
Yeah, Glenn Griffin's improving in 4 of the 6 sectors over the course of this 2.433 mile lap. The Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch has been in use now for what is going to be its 20th anniversary. Started back in 2003, as Dan Hardwick looks to have improved over half of the sectors, as we now are with said Glenn Griffin as he makes his way through into Druids and then down the hill. And again, the first thing, of course, this is a standing start championship, folks, so they're going to have to deal with a lot of wheel spin, adverse camber to the right-hand side, and it is about getting off the line correctly when the 5 red lights go out. Craig Durrant is about to cross the line, and on that particular lap, he does improve, and he gets to within just under 1/10.5 of Ryan Martin. So the battle for pole position quite clearly on. Cluffy is currently 7th, just under 7.5 of a second behind Ryan Martin, and that's the top 7 completed. Also looking down to John Finch, as Liam Waterhouse has just gone 8th, as Adam Barron's just had an off track. The top 12 covered by a 1.5 seconds. So we do see here in the AFVRC, qualifying is very, very close indeed, especially with those that do set aside the time, of course, with being in the armed forces. Shift pattern changes, new details, sometimes not having the ability to fully practice for this championship. Some of them are going to come in rather cold, but they'll get to the grips with the circuit, and the racing is what really decides it, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And we've seen, certainly last week, I thought we saw some really disciplined racing from all the drivers. So tight it was, certainly in the second race last week, for those top places. And really disciplined driving, and that's what you need, because otherwise it's just going to be chaos. Because these cars are incredibly difficult to control, and of course not all our drivers have got the top rigs. Some of them are operating probably on Xbox controllers or whatever, and doing remarkably well. But they're not the easiest of cars to control. But I know how much they're enjoying this year with the step up, as you say, to the GR86 Cup cars. It's the last 3 years it's been very, very different. Obviously we started off with the Mazda MX-5s in the first season, and then last year we have the Porsches. This year it's the Toyotas, and we're seeing some really close racing as a result. But Ryan Martin, look at that again. He's what 0.36 of a second just clear of Craig Durrant at the moment, and Tom Stevens still forging his way in, but very, very tight. And so there's still lots of top places to play for here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the last few moments of the last 5-6 minutes of practice works out here. Yeah,
the evolution of the track will be considerable over the last 5.5 minutes. Tom Stevens has done a personal best. Matty Chambers has. Liam Waterhouse is in 8th. He's just improved. Darren Berris has just had an off track. He's currently 6th in the number 40. 0.86 off of the, or 0.855 off of Ryan Martin, as we're now with Adam Watters in the number 9 from the Air Force. He's coming out of Clearways and Clark Curve and now down the iconic Brabham Straight. Now, does he improve? He does. It's only 8/100ths behind Luke Arpino, who's currently rounding out the top 15 at the minute. Jack Ajewski and Ollie Wayne yet to set a lap time, so 24 cars scheduled to take part in this event tonight. But as you alluded to earlier, John, that the standard of racing last time out at Okayama, a tight circuit in his own right, they can put that practice into the practical here at Brands Hatch, and that could be quite crucial. Craig Durant has decided to come into the pits, but that could be to maybe make sure that he gets a fresh set of rubber. He'll have to go out for an outlap, and considering Ryan Martin has again improved, and the gap between him and Craig Durant has now jumped from 0.36 to 0.53 seconds, so over half a second. I mean, Ryan Martin is already setting the tone for not just this qualifying session, but also for the race itself, and he's got a considerable lead in the championship coming into these 2 rounds. Of course, drop scores come into consideration, so every point is crucial no matter where you are on this grid.
Absolutely. But Ryan has dominated this championship so far, and I suspect that he may well have secured enough points to win the championship before he reached the end. But that, there's a lot of points to play for, as you say. I think obviously the drivers will have. What's going on there?
Oh, Mr. Hardwick. That is one of the and he's just lost the front bumper as well. That was Dan Hardwick in the 31. He's just ripped the front bumper on that GR86 asunder. I think that was coming out of. I think that might have been coming out of Clark Curve. That is a touch point whereby you can have moments, and that was very much a big moment for Dan. And I'm sure
it was.
I hope his force feedback didn't hurt him too much after that one, because that was a big old whack into the wall. And it's happening again this time with Tom Stevens. Oh dearie me. And the thing is, we can see this in the qualifying session, that they are just pushing, and that is really, really the biggest point in qualifying. You will go all out. You will go basically pedal to the metal. You'll find the limit of adhesion, and sometimes, as we've just seen a couple of times with Mr. Hardwick and Mr. Stevens, that they end up exceeding said limit of adhesion, don't they?
Well, it all goes hopelessly wrong, yes, and a big repair bill. Virtual repair bill for the cars as well. But and I think this push it sums up how competitive it is this year, that the drivers are absolutely desperate to get some of these top places on the starting lineup. Linda Noble's still in the pit. I want to see Linda come out and getting a time. Maybe she's had some sort of mechanical issue that they're trying to get sorted out with the car. Luke Arpino in the pit. Darren Berris is in the pit as well at the moment, and as we literally run into the last couple of minutes now of qualifying, who is going to catch Ryan Martin? I don't think anyone is tonight, Alex, certainly in qualifying, and it looks like he's going to be taking pole position.
Yeah, well, Chris Paul, he's just had an off-track. Craig Durant has just been in the pits for just over 2 minutes and 5 seconds, so might be going on a final hurrah, so to speak. Here's Matty Chambers, currently still running in P5, goes second with a 1 minute 37.87, so good lap from Matty. Now we go back to Chris Slater. He's making his way out of Clark Curve and down the Brabham Straight. These cars, 2-litre inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engines, rear-wheel drive, which can be a bit skittish over certain corners, including the iconic Paddock Hill Bend, which is a blind apex going down a hill, and that could be a real point. Now, I don't think he does. I'm not too sure on that one, to be completely honest with you. No, I don't think he did. I think he did his personal best, but did not improve. So, still has about just under 2/10 to find, and well, straight on at Druids. I think that is that for his qualifying session. Ollie Wayne needs to make a few more places up the order. He's currently sitting in 12th position on a 1 minute 39.04. We've seen him in the trend is quite literally, but there could be something develops. So we'll find out what's happening on that one.
Yeah, Matty Chambers again doing so well for the Royal Navy this year, keeping the Royal Navy end up very much in this championship, and most impressive in the last couple of races as well. Ryan Martin, I think, is he in the pit? Or is he still out there? Anyway, we are really on the line now as far as qualifying is concerned. So it's looking like we have certainly got our top three certainly in place, and just with a few more cars out on the track just to complete their last few times. Can Chris Slater get himself into the top 10 with that? It doesn't look like it. So I think very shortly we'll have our grid positions, won't we?
Yeah, I think we very much will do, to be honest with you. And yeah, it is coming down to crunch time. It's about the final couple of pushes over the next lap or so, if they get enough time before the server times out, and that can be a bit of an issue for drivers that might be on a really good lap. Well, Cluffy does deliver, and then probably goes off track as well. Goes P6 on that effort. So that seems to be a little bit of a good effort now on his availability in terms of the on getting that all sorted. So yeah, and the checkered is out for the session. So Ryan Martin again takes another pole position and actually expanded the gap between him and Matty Chambers. So that looks to be our front row. Drivers still coming through for their final push laps. Adam Waters now coming around the final corner. And is he going to improve? Because he goes very close to the wall. Stays 16th after that effort. But John Finch jumps up into 13th position on a 1 minute 39.11. But Ryan Martin, again, as you said, John, has been the cream of the crop, so to speak.
Yeah, he certainly has. He's really got to grips with this car really right from the word go. He just seems so comfortable on all the tracks so far. Looking very, very strong indeed.
Yep, so that concludes the 20-minute qualifying session for our first of two races tonight. So it's two 15-minute races. Race 2 will have a reverse grid draw, and we will spin the wheel of doom after that one. So the drivers will find out where they're going to be, and especially if you are in the race winner, you're going to find yourself a little bit further down the grid. But we are not that far away from getting our first of two 15-minute races underway. A big thank you as always for those watching on the official RAFE Motorsports channel. So let's have a look at your grid for race number 1 tonight. And it is going to be Ryan Martin on pole position, Matty Chambers alongside on the front row, Craig Durant and Chris Pawley on row 2, Tom Stevens and Michael Clough on row 3, Darren Berris and Liam Waterhouse row 4, Ollie Wayne and Luke Arpino round out the top 10, Adam Barron, Chris Slater, that is row number 6, John Finch, Ben Weston, Stu Eatock, Adam Waters, then we've got Dan Hardwick, Colin Scott and Jack Ejewski and Reese Bowes rounding out the top 20. Rounding out the grid, it's Ryan Abbott, Steve Ward, Linda Noble and Glenn Griffin. Well, I think definitely the goosebumps are definitely permeating through my system right now, John.
Well, I'm certainly excited about this start, and really good to see Coffey up there again. He's done really well in the qualifying there. And Darren Berris too, possibly his best qualifying run so far in the championship.
Yeah, well, Ryan Martin has just jumped into the YouTube chat saying, I had the wrong setup, LOL. Yeah,
really?
You know what I say to that? I think not, good sir.
I'd stick with that setup, even if it was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. We're just waiting for Reese to jump onto the grid, and we'll be ready for lights out to get things underway as our pole sitter jumps into his respective place on the grid. The grid is lined up and ready. 24 cars around this 2.433 mile circuit here at Brands Hatch. the lights start to ignite on the starting gantry, and the first race tonight here at Brands Hatch gets underway. A lot of wheel spin from the outside of row number 3, but it looks like Matty Chambers has got the jump already on Ryan Martin. Martin goes to the inside, but it was high, wide and handsome from Matty Chambers, who leads the field up the Hailwood Hill, through into Druids for the opening time, sweeps in wide, nice and neatly. Someone's going a bit too wide on the outside. That looks to be Darren Perez, and we've gone straight away. That was Ollie Wayne, Liam Waterhouse involved. Chris Slater's ended up off the circuit. And oh no, that's not what needed to happen. That was Matty Chambers within 5 corners. He's lost the lead, and that was down Graham Hill, down out of Graham Hill Bend and down the Cooper Straights. He rejoins, and I think he must be kicking himself. Not too sure what happened, if there might have been a slight touch between him and Ryan Martin. With these GR86s, they can be a bit of a handful. The slightest amount of contact, as you, myself and David have seen all season long, John, it can be the case. One slight touch and you are going around for a 360, whether you like it or not.
And I just wonder whether the tyres are warmed up enough, whether they just overdid it, and it just took a slight touch. But Ryan Martin has benefited from that. Craig Durrant as well, and Chris Pawley and Tom Stevens, and Darren Berris still in there in 5th place. That really is his best drive so far of the championship. And Michael Clough in 6th. Luke Arpino has worked his way up there into 7th, and Adam Barron in 8th place at the moment. But Ryan Martin, it all landed in his lap, because it wasn't the best start for him tonight, was it? He could have done better with that start, but he's made the most of the mistakes that have been happening around him.
Yep, indeed. We have got some movers up the order. Adam Waters up to 9th from 16th on the grid. So that's a good move from him. Reece Bowes has just got up from 20th to 11th position. Well, make that 8, because that Ben Weston has just overtaken him. But we're 2 minutes and a quarter into this race. A bit of a 4-car train at the moment, led by Luke Arpino. Barron, Waters and Finch not too far behind. So Adam Waters looking to move up the order early and just take the advantages when they can. They're now going to go, we've just gone through Surtees, they're going to go down the infamous Pilgrim's Drop, and it is quite literally a drop underneath the bridge, before the sweeping right-hander at Hawthorns, which can catch people out, but you've got to carry the speed through, rotate the car through early, but don't clip the apex too early either, because you're going to lose all that momentum, because you could either be on the kitty litter or on the grass. But in the meantime, battle for second here. Chris Pawley looking up the inside of Craig Durrant, and this is going to be into the next right-hander. Pawley sends it, gets through nice and neatly. He hasn't, because he had because Durrant up the inside, that's through Sterling's, and now Tom Stevens has decided to join the fray. Looks to the outside on the round down through Clearways into Clark Curve, and they rub door panels and fenders ever so slightly. Stevens slots back into position, but Durrant at the moment hangs on to 3rd place. But Chris Pawley with a great move, that would have been through Westfield, got through on Durrant, and now Stevens looking for the move through Paddock Hill Bend. That's going to be a brave one. And he holds back and waits for his next opportunity to strike.
Well, this little battle royal that's going on for 2nd, 3rd, 4th place is playing right into the hands of Ryan Martin once again. Because look, he's almost 2 seconds clear now of the cars behind him, who are obviously jockeying for position. But Ryan, we've seen this so many times of him this season, that he's got himself into a leading position. He's got the track sussed out and letting the battles go on behind him.
Yeah, good to see David McClelland in the RAF e-Motorsports chat saying the Bows of Barmy Army. As at the moment, Stevens again looking to get past Durrant as they go through Hawthorns. Just behind you got Cloughy and Darren Berris battling over 5th place. Luke Arpino up to 7th now. Adam Barron, Adam Waters, and then John Fitch round at the top 10. Lyndon Noble has just been in the pits for about a couple of seconds. Steve Ward was in the pits for over nearly 35. Ollie Wayne has got some significant and potentially terminal damage to the 866, as again we now see what is more than just a 2-car scrap. We've got multiple cars, because Cloughy is looking to get past Craig Durrant for 4th.
Yeah, he is. But those top 2 are now working their way clear, aren't they, as well? So I think it's sort of this battle for maybe the third podium place is going to be the most exciting part of this race. I mean, look at those two, the top two, just well clear now. But there's more cars joining the battle behind them all the time. So Tom Stevens, Craig Durrant, Puffy, and Darren Berris and Luke Arpino, don't write them off either. Look at that. It's going to be a real scrap. It's going to be really exciting these last few minutes.
Yeah, definitely going to be a bit of a slobber knocker as we're over 5. Oh dearie me, Cloughie's off, and he smacked the barriers. I think I'm not too sure if he might have touched the accelerator a little bit too hard on the exit out of Druids, and that speared him into the other side of the circuit and pinballed him off the barriers. That is definitely going to be a return to garage and a trip into the pits and return it. But a real shame for Cloughie. He was running P5 and then it just all went horribly wrong. Luke Arpino is now battling with Adam Barron, and both of them have made up places. This is the battle for P6. Down Pilgrim's Drop. Arpino switches to the outside, Barron to the inside. Neatly catches the apex. Arpino using a little bit of curb and then a little bit more, so to speak. But then they go down the Derek Minter straight. We can have a look at a replay here. And this is from earlier. This is actually at the start of the race, where, and we did see a bit of a touch, and that was straight in, caused a bit of a melee. Cars all over the shop coming out of Druids, and 2 GR86 Cup cars intertwined, which involved Liam Waterhouse early doors, and also Ollie Wayne. Tom Stevens, in the meantime, holding on to third place. Craig Durrant is not too far. We're going to have a look at another replay here. Now, this is from what happened with the race leader. Matty Chambers went off at Graham Hill Bend. Oh, well, it was self-induced in that case. He went very, very wide, ran into the AstroTurf, touched the grass. The back end stepped out to the right-hand side, put him straight in the path of Ryan Martin, who was effectively trying to just get the hell out of Dodge. And Stevens makes his way through Durant. So sorry about that, John.
No, I was going to say, Ryan Martin, I think it was a remarkable bit of driving for him because he could quite easily have been taken out there, but he just kept going, and he's reaped the benefits, hasn't he? But yeah, sorry for me interrupting there. Craig Durrant working his way back up now into fourth place, so he's done really well after what happened to him at the start.
Yeah, we're going to go to another replay here now. This is involving Linda Noble in the 101. Now, this is coming through into Surtees. She turns in. Just gets a tag from behind. That was the 866 of Ollie Wayne, who was also trying to recover. So she's turned in, and Wayne has just sort of gone, what's going on here? But yeah, it's just one of those things. And I did say that track, knowing the track, having that knowledge, and just making sure you've got your wits around you. Peripheral vision is key in sim racing, but as we now see Steve Ward, and and Steve Ward's now that is not going anywhere, that car, and I think he was side by side with Linda Noble there, because Linda was to the outside of him. And Steve Ward, well, that is his race done and dusted, I'm afraid.
Well, Destruction Derby, that one, isn't it?
It was like Wreckfest all over again.
It certainly was. But look at Craig Durrant, though. He's really challenging, isn't he, with Tom Stevens for that third place, and looking really strong. He's come back really, really strongly. Bit of Chris Slater now, and Chris obviously had he was involved in that melee at the beginning, and a little skater's waltz there. And once again, Chris struggling to deal with the circuit here today. Tom Stevens and Craig Durrant. We are with Tom Stevens here. He's got Craig Durrant right on his right up his the backside at the moment, but holding his own very well at the moment, and is the Navy man.
Yeah. So this battle for third and fourth position, Tom Stevens versus Craig Durrant. Here's going to be another replay, and this is with Liam Waterhouse again, who's so to speak been in the trenches in the number 90. Now this is coming out of Clark Curve, sideways, back end steps out to the left. That car is going, and bang, straight into the tyre barriers on the left hand side of the pit lane entry. And that car is just as destroyed as what we just saw with Steve Ward going through into Paddock Hill Bend and clattering into the left side wall at the top of the hill.
Kind of spoils your day, doesn't it, really, that? But having a very good day so far. Ryan Martin looking at nearly 4-second lead now on Craig Pawley, who himself has got a 6-second lead now He's 6 seconds clear with Craig Darren Berris, and Tom Stevens obviously in third place. So those top two really cementing their position. The battle, who's going to win that battle for that third podium?
Yeah, third place on the podium. I mean, if Tom Stevens and Craig Durant start battling away, which we have seen them do over the first 2/3 of this race, Darren Berris could factor in, Adam Barron, Mikael Pete. Well, I would say Darren Berris and Adam Barron could be the closest competitors to them, because between the pair of them, they're about 1.7 seconds combined away from Craig Durant, who we ride on board on the roof cam with, of the 84th from the British Army. Now down Cooper Straight into the left-hander here at Surtees. And then you can see that there's a lot of undulation, especially if you hit the curbs on the left-hand side. So great viewpoint here, slight right kink down into Pilgrim's Drop, and then you just see the elevation change. You're literally going down a slight roller coaster, and then it is commit slightly on the brakes. Stevens nearly gets the back end out sideways there, but manages to keep it on the straight and narrow.
Some brilliant shot, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely. And now we've got the recovering Matty Chambers going towards the outside of Jack Ajewski in the number 99, down Pilgrim's Drop. Ajewski's going to have the racing line. What does Chambers do? He goes around the outside of it. That is absolutely ridiculous, and then goes sideways to boot, still keeps the throttle pinned, and then could lose a position to Dan Hardwick through into Westfield, which he actually does. So that just goes to show how quickly things can change, but he managed to keep it on the well held there by Matty Chambers. He definitely is wanting to put on a show for the viewers at home.
He did. I think he did extremely well to hold that together there. You're quite right. It could easily have gone hopelessly wrong going into the grass there, but yeah, he held firm and he's still there.
Yeah, and he's actually got back past Dan Hardwick as well in the process. Coming out of Stirling's, going through into Clearways and then into Clark Curve, still with Craig Durant at the moment, and this battle is really shaping up rather nicely.
This is the battle. This is the battle for third place, for that third place on the podium, and Craig's not giving up at all. He's chasing Tom Stevens a bit like a bad smell, isn't he, around this course? But it's so tight. A lot of pressure then on Tom. How can he hold it? He's doing pretty well so far, but look at this. It could not be closer. Maybe he's going to give him a push in a minute.
Well, let's hope it's not a push to pass, because they've just gone through into Westfield, now through into Dingle Dell before the run up the hill through into Sheen Curve for the left at Stirling's, and the bumping over the curbs go both of the drivers. I mean, Craig got a very good slipstream out from Surtees down into Hawthorns through Pilgrim's Drop. Now he's going to try and see if he can tee up a move on Tom Stevens, coming through out of Clearways into the right-hand sweeper here at Clark Curve, where you're going to be down a couple of gears, you're going to be on the brakes, rotate the car through the corner. And now this is the opportunity where the drivers will try and hug the wall on the right-hand side as late as they dare, but Tom Stevens goes defensive on Craig Durant, who's looking towards the outside, going through into Paddock Hill Bend. They both bump over the curves, both run wide coming out of Paddock Hill, and they are line astern up the Hailwood Hill, through into Druids once again. Who's going to get the better run coming out of Druids and going down in towards Graham Hill Bend? Pretty even between the pair, but Craig Durant is showing his nose to Tom Stevens, as if to say, you know what, you're not going to get away with me, and if I get an opportunity, I'm going to take it.
This is great driving from both drivers, when you say, Alex. I mean, they really are driving this superbly well at the moment, handling the track magnificently.
Well, apart from Steve Ward, who's just gone into the wall coming out of Surtees. That was his car that was just in the barriers after repairing it, but less than a minute to go. And Ryan Martin is about 60% away around this circuit, 2.433 miles. So we could be close to, we might be having the white flag next time, or maybe even the checkered, but Durant is still trying to get on level peggings with Stevens. Stevens went a little bit wide, just coming through the last couple of corners, and that is giving Durant all the motivation he needs. Now, there is our leader in the picture-in-picture, Ryan Martin. There is going to be one more lap after this, because he's going to cross the line about 5 to 10 seconds before the time elapses. And now what's even more prevalent is the fact that back marker traffic is coming into play. So Ryan Martin makes his way through Paddock Hill Bend for what looks to be the final time, as now the white flag is out. One more lap to go. I think Craig Durant's got to put it all on the line here, because Tom Stevens will defend. But how hard does he defend is another completely different matter altogether. Because if you defend too hard, you're going to open the door. If you don't, if you defend not enough, you're still going to open that door. So Tom Stevens has got that double-edged sword to deal with right now.
He had, but he's holding his defensive line extremely well, and it's going to be very difficult for Craig Durant to get past him. Well, it's now or never in a way for Craig. He's got to make his move very, very shortly, or it's going to be fourth place for him. And the behind, I don't think they're going to come into play now at all in these last few moments of the lap. And great driving from Ryan Martin, and also from Chris Pawley as well. They decided to keep their lines pretty solid throughout the whole race, and they're going to take 1 and 2. But is there anything left from Craig Durant here?
That's what we're going to find out right now, folks, because they are not that far away from completing our 10th and final lap, because Ryan Martin will now power out of the final corner. Not the best of starts from the Scotsman from the Royal Air Force, but he's going to take another victory by a comfortable 7 seconds after 11 laps of racing. Another one on the board for Ryan Martin. And there is the drag race. And look, Chris Durant has timed it perfectly. Pawley takes second. Durant takes third by 2/100ths of a second. We were waiting, and Craig Durant did not disappoint. He got there in the end. Stevens takes fourth, 20 thousandths adrift. Another 3.3 seconds back is going to be Darren Berris, who finishes just under 3/4 of a second behind Adam. That's Adam Barron, Luke Arpino, Adam Waters, John Finch, and Stu Eatock round at the top 10 as Cluffy goes for a very, very big spin. And I think that probably reflects the livery on the left-hand side of his car, which has got multiple oops speech bubbles as well that we've just seen. But you know, it could have been so different for Cluffy had he not had that moment coming out of Druids, having a bit of a tank slapper in the car, ending up in the barriers. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's got to the checkered. And sometimes it's not always about we know that Cluffy would love to be further up the order, but of course, sometimes it's not just about the winning; it's the taking part that counts.
Absolutely, and I'm still looking for the "Where's Wally" logo on the side of Cluffy's car there on that left side. I think it could be the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Anyway, here's the results.
So Ryan Martin takes another win by just over 6.9 seconds from Chris Pawley. So it's a Royal Air Force 1-2. The British Army and the Royal Navy make it into the top 4 this time, thanks to Craig Durant, who pipped Tom Stevens on the line by 2/100ths of a second. Darren Berris, Adam Barron, Luke Arpino, Adam Waters, John Finch, and Stu Eatock round out the top 10. Ben Weston 11th, ahead of Ryan Abbots. Jack Ajewski managed to get a few places up the order, but make that 6 to finish in 13th. Reese Bowes in 14th. Colin Scott rounding out the top 15. It could have been a completely different race for Matty Chambers, folks, but started second. First lap incident of his own making, unfortunately, coming out of Graham Hill Bend. Still came back to finish in 16th. Dan Hardwick, Chris Slater, Cluffy, Michael Clough, and Glenn Griffin ran at the top 20. Linda Noble and Ollie Wayne, the last 2 classified finishers, a lap down off of the eventual race winner, Ryan Martin, with Steve Ward retiring on lap 7, Liam Waterhouse just 3 laps in. But, you know, what can you say about Ryan Martin, John?
Brilliant.
Can't say
well,
anything.
let's see how the spin of the dice works then for the second race.
Okay, position 6 to 12. Who is it going to be on reverse grid pole position? That is going to be Ben Weston. So it's going to be a top 11 reverse grid. So Ryan Martin has got all the work to do from P11 on the grid for race 2. Another 15-minute lap. Going to be interesting to see how Ryan filters his way through. And now Matty Chambers has got it all to do, because he's going to be down at the towards the back end of the grid. But you know what? I think we might have chance for a quick interview. Let's see if we can bring in our runner-up in the race. Let's see if we can have a chat with Chris Pawley, if possible. Well, Chris, a very good evening. That was an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I had nothing to answer for Ryan in that one, but I ended up just having a race on my own, to be honest, for all of it. But it was good. Happy to come away with second. That was a lot of help for the championship. And a good race overall.
What were your first thoughts when Matty Chambers accidentally lost the back end coming out of Graham Hill Bend and went straight into the path of Ryan? Was it sort of like just brace and hope that nothing happens in your general direction?
Yeah, I felt like Moses as the sea kind of parted in front of me, but fortunately Ryan got away with it because I saw that developing and I thought, I hope we all don't get caught up in this. And I'm not sure who did. I saw Matty Chambers go off, but I think Ryan got pretty lucky. And then it was kind of Ryan, Craig, and myself. And I thought we were keeping up with Ryan purely just because of the slipstream. And I thought we'd break away as kind of a trio, but and then I saw an opportunity on Craig, so I took it and. I think that worked out quite well then because we managed to get a bit of a gap. I just couldn't keep within that slipstream of Ryan, and then obviously he's pulled away, and his pace is really unreal today.
Yeah, he put in the YouTube chat after qualifying saying I ran with the wrong setup, and we're sort of like calling his bluff on that one. Hopefully we'll well, actually we might be able to speak to him now. But Chris, good luck for race 2. Thanks for talking to us, and all the very best.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Well, let's see if we can bring in our race winner, Ryan Martin. Another win on the board. What's this about the setup you were bantering about in the YouTube chat after quali? First of all, I need to ask.
So I did most of the qualifying, and then I realised that I had the race set up on. So I quickly changed that around and was able to thankfully get a decent lap in the end. But I just, even during the laps, I was like, this doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And then eventually realised and was able to do a lap that I expected rather than 3 or 4 tenths slower. So it all worked out in the end, as they say.
Yeah, what exactly happened at the start? Because we saw that Matty Chambers literally pulled alongside you, pulled past and led going into Paddock Hill. Did you just sort of bog down off the line when the lights went out?
I'll be completely honest with you about the starts. I am terrible at them. The reason for that is I didn't have a clutch to begin with, but then I had a big brain moment. I had a spare set of pedals, so I have attached them to my PC and I'm using just the clutch from them, but it's in the most awkward position, and trying to actually get the bite and get it moving at the right time, it is almost impossible, and I'm lucky if it works out. And just unfortunately at the start of that race it 100% didn't, and I thought, here we go, I'm going to be P5 or 6 by the first turn, but by virtue of the type of turn it is, everybody was a bit more calm and a bit more chilled out, so I was able to keep second. And then unfortunately Matty, there was no touch. I never touched him in the lead up to it. It's just when he swung across the track, that's when we sort of collected each other a little bit. But yeah, it's basically because I don't have a clutch. The clutch I am using is on a set of pedals that's just on the floor. It's not attached to anything, and it's the best I can do though.
Not doing any harm though, is it, to be honest with you, Ryan?
Well, I mean, if the championship was decided on not to 60s, I'd probably be last. But thankfully, it's decided on 15-minute races, yeah. So I'm okay for the next 14 minutes and 55 seconds. It's just that first 5 seconds that I'm absolutely dreadful at. But hopefully I'll be able to figure it out at some point and get it consistent.
Well, you've definitely done I think the biggest improvise, adapt and overcome situation before a race start of anybody this season. But congrats on the win, Ryan. Of course, that extends your championship lead going into race 2, starting from P11. That's going to be an interesting one around this circuit, isn't it?
Big time. P11 at the start might not be the worst thing, because the first race, obviously, I was out on my own and I was more concentrating on just not touching the grass and just keeping it neat. But when you start P11 and you're wanting to get near the front, you're going to have to start making some moves and trying to find some gaps. So that's going to be interesting and exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, P11 is going to be a bit difficult on this track, but with the pace that I had in the first race and the gaps that were produced, I think I might have a chance of having a top 5 probably. But regardless if you're even a lot quicker than the guy in front or girl in front, it's then not a dead set that you're going to get past them anytime soon. So just got to pick my times, pick the points, pick the corners and apexes, and I'm sure positions will come my way, hopefully.
Brilliant. Well done tonight, Ryan, for getting the win in round number 13. Good luck for round 14 coming up very shortly.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the race.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan Martin. So a Royal Air Force 1-2 there, John, but also good to see the Army and the Navy in the top 4 as well to have a bit of a scrap. It was quite good to see, but I think the biggest moment was going to be 3rd and 4th being decided.
Well, Craig Durrant, that was a brilliant driving, wasn't it? Right at the end there, to literally picked his moment, literally as they were crossing the line. Maybe he'd been rehearsing that, in the previous laps, thinking this is going to be my moment. This is where I can do it if I'm in a certain place. And I feel for Tom Stevens because he defended magnificently in the last 5 or 6 laps there. But Craig just had him at the end. But you're right. Good to see the Army and the Navy in there alongside their RAF counterparts.
Indeed, folks. Well, as you can see, there is a timer on the screen. We'll be back in just over 8 minutes' time for round 14, aka the second half of week 7, the BFBS, I'll get that right tonight, hopefully by the end of the show, AFVRC. Join myself and John very, very soon. of the BFBS AFVRC. We are gridding up, getting ready for our reverse grid for this particular race. Ben Weston was selected as the driver, having finished 11th in race 1. He'll be on pole position, and it is a Royal Air Force top 7 lockout at the moment due to that decision. Stu Eatock will be on the front row alongside Ben, with John Finch, Adam Waters, Luke Arpino, Adam Barron, Darren Berris, Tom Stevens, and then from the Army and the Air Force respectively, it's Craig Durant and Chris Pawley, who gave us that great battle in race 1. Ryan Martin, race 1 winner, starts from 11th. Alongside will be Ryan Abbots. Then it's Jack Ajewski, Rhys Bowers, Colin Scott, Matty Chambers, Dan Hardwick, Chris Slater. Cluffy's going to start from 19th alongside Glenn Griffin in 20th, with Linda Noble, Ollie Wayne, Steve Ward and Liam Waterhouse. It's Alex Goldschmidt and John Knight. And John, we get underway, and that was a bit of a line lock there from Ben Weston, because Stu Eatock has just got past him. John Finch is going around the outside of him as well, so 3 wide. Someone went very high onto the curbs. I think it was Luke Arpino. Someone's gone off track already through Paddock Hill Bend and into the kitty litter, but great start by Eatock. Bit of a bog down from Ben Weston, as there we see Ben still holding on to 3rd place at the moment. Bit of a contact there between Waters and Arpino heading into Graham Hill Bend, but no one making any major mistakes so far going through into Graham Hill. And they're starting to fan out, nearly 3 wide from around about 4th position back. But Eatock's got a really good launch, and at the moment, now where is Mr. Martin? He's currently still sitting in 11th, but Ryan did say to us after the post-race 1 interview, I'm going to pick my spots, and he's got a little bit of work to do, hasn't he?
He's got a lot of work to do, especially with that start that Stu Eatock has made there. Fantastic. Ben Weston, so much wheel spin there. He lost a couple of places, didn't he, from that pole position, which is a real shame for him. But he's pulling himself back, and he's already challenging John Finch for that 2nd place. Yeah, Ryan Martin's still there in 11th. He's got Adam Barron, Tom Stevens. Craig Durant has just moved up to 7th ahead of Luke Arpino. So there's a lot of good quality drivers ahead of him, and it's going to be quite difficult for him to get past. But there's going to be some mayhem there, and there absolutely is.
And that's Tom Stevens. Tom Stevens into the barriers, coming out of Stirling's and going through into Clearways, as Adam Waters now has got Chris Pawley not too far behind, about 0.3 of a second adrift. As someone's got a bit sideways there as well. Cluffy's made his way up to 9th. Stu Eatock's just put in the fastest lap of the races. Look at the amount of jockeying for position and real estate on this circuit. Down the Bradford Straight, into Paddock Hill Bend, onto lap number 2. No quarter, I think, is being given in this 2nd race, as Cluffy gets the right-hand side wheels up into the air off of Paddock Hill Bend, but still to get himself up into 9th at this early stage is a good way to go. But there has been a moment, and that is Jack Ajewski that's just spun around at the top part of Druids on the exit. So Ryan Martin now finds himself in 9th position as Cluffy and Durant go into battle. Martin's going to pick his spots here as they go down the Cooper Straight, launches that up the inside of Cluffy with absolutely no hesitation whatsoever, and gets a little bit of a touch as Cluffy goes into the corner. That's going to allow the likes of Chambers, who has just gone through. Cluffy got away with that one very lightly. I think he's going to have Chambers to his outside, which he is. So hopefully no pit manoeuvre is going to happen here going into Hawthorns, but Cluffy was very, very lucky, unfortunately, though. And no, he's not. No, he's not. Out of the exit. So he's gone off. Dan Hardwick has gone off and returned to garage. Tom Stevens was in the pits after that incident coming through Clearways out of Stirling. So not as much drama as we saw in the opening 3 minutes of the first race, though, John.
Absolutely not. I mean, come on, Cluffy. Come on, Michael. This is not Dodgems, you know. But yeah, just look at Ryan Martin. He's up to 8th again now. I mean, despite that little episode that he had, he's up to 8th place. We're with Chris Slater in 11th place at the moment, and going well at the moment. Is that the curse of the commentator on Chris once more? Yeah, he's looking for a top 10. Matty Chambers ahead of him, just 0.8 of a second ahead, so that's pretty close. But Stu Eatock is now extending his lead 1.1 seconds over John Finch. So Stu Eatock is making the most of the opportunity given to him on the grid at the start.
Darren Berris will be, I'm sure, feverishly looking in the rear-view mirrors, because Chris Pawley is going alongside, well, it looks like, There could be a change. Well, Slater is up into 10th. Ryan Abbott's has dropped a couple of positions. Chris Pawley has set the overall fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 38.44. Steve Ward with the best 0 to 60 time, 2.84 seconds in comparison with a few others that were north of 3.5 seconds. I think we did see one at about 4.84. So these cars are stripped out, race ready, based on the production vehicle that is available to buy domestically through your local Toyota dealer. No plug there, Toyota GB.
Other brands are available.
Yes, they are indeed. They are indeed. As you can see that there is information being provided courtesy of our good friends over at Splunk, who are providing all the telemetry data, not for just us on the stream, but also for the drivers after every single race meeting. And you can see, and that's position changes in the championship. So Darren Barris, Adam Barron have moved up a place in the standings. John Finch has dropped 2 places from 7th to 9th. Stu Etok now will round out the top 10 as Darren Barris goes in with the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 38.141. Battle for the lead really heating up. Chris Pawley is also being brought along for the ride. Ben Weston is about 1.5 seconds away from this quartet. So Stu Etok did have that initial advantage, got off the line better than anybody else, including Ben Weston, our pole sitter, through the reverse grid draw after race number 1. And Pawley is not hanging about. He's looking to the outside of Barris, maybe trying to get the undercut through into Surtees. Barris takes the tight defensive line. Pawley's now going to get the, and you're going to see there, look at the acceleration times. These are 0 to 30 miles an hour. Craig Durant, 2.7 seconds. Hardwick, 3.2. Steve Ward, 3.7. Ben Weston, 4 seconds. Darren Barris, 5.2. And then Chris Slater, 5.4. So these cars will probably hit 0 to 60 in around 7.5 seconds as Barris is all over the exhaust pipes of Finch. And now Chris Pawley nearly made it three wide. Ollie Wayne trying to keep ahead of Adam Barron and goes completely off track out of Hawthorns and into Westfield. But Pawley is just, he's like a man possessed, is the number 21 from the Royal Air Force, isn't he?
He's going so well. I'm sure that's the second place in the first race.
We saw, and that was Matty Chambers having another drama. He went off track and he was backwards. So Matty Chambers' evening is going to be one to quite clearly forget, I'm afraid.
What has happened to Ryan Martin? I can't see him on the list.
He's in the pits. He's been in the pits for over 1.5 minutes. So has there been a drama that has befelled our race 1 winner from tonight? I dread to think, as Adam Barron is closing on Ollie Wayne for 10th position. Wayne has made up the most places tonight, 12 positions from 22nd on the grid, so the penultimate row. And Adam Barron is giving good chase at the moment, trying to put the pressure onto the 866 who was in the trenches earlier on, as Cluffy has just got that is Jewski up the inside of him in the 99, and Cluffy goes off into the gravel on the left hand side. He's just been passed by the likes of Steve Ward and Reese Bowes. There is a lot of love for Reese in the chat as always here on RAF Motorsports, but Cluffy's still trying to keep himself going as, yeah, Reese just had a moment coming out of Graham Hill Bend. It was nearly 3 wide coming out of Graham Hill and down the Cooper Straight and into Stirling, into Surtees. So that battle.
Darren Barris up to second place. And he's going really well. Darren has set a fastest lap as well. And here he is in second place, just a second now behind Stu Etok. So going really, really well.
Yeah, Cluffy still going along side by side with Steve Ward, manages to make up another position to go up to 15th. So that was a good move. That would have been through Westfield. That would have been through Hawthorns. Now they're going through into Westfields before Dingle Dell, and then into the right-hander at Sheen Curve before the left at Stirlings, which is where a certain Mr. Danny Hunkadea a few years ago in what was originally known as the Blancpain, but now is known as the GT World Challenge, had a massive tank slapper in the Mercedes AMG. I still remember John Watson nearly jumping out of his skin when he saw that one, and the way that Junkadela actually held it. But we've got a good battle here. This is Colin Scott and Jack Ijewski. And Ijewski's gone really, really tight to the wall. Has got the side draft now. And Colin Scott has to relinquish the position going into Paddock Hill Bend. But is Ijewski going to run a little bit deep? He goes a bit sideways. He's off the back end and he gets attacked from behind. There was nothing that Colin Scott could do about it. And Cluffy's straight into the side of Ijewski. Oh, and somebody else has just been caught out as a direct result. Yeah. The thing was, Cluffy was pointed inwards, Whoever came across his front bumper went flying. And Linda Noble, she's just come a cropper out of Druids. I've just seen her into the barriers, and she's just gone into the pits now. Ryan Martin, I don't think will be
emerging.
No, not at all, because we're 9.5 minutes into this second race, and we thought there was, we saw a lot more bedlam, but we haven't. If it's been an incident, it's been a big incident, but it's been mitigated in this second race because the drivers have already had that feel for the track. But this is the battle for what is now the race lead, as Beres has got a head of steam going down clearways. He's pulled alongside Stu Eatock going into Clark Curve, and the lead has changed, but Paulie's going to try and do the pair of them on the inside. Can he make it 3 wide coming out of the final corner? He's going to get into the slipstream of what is going to be. It's going to be close. We've got 5 minutes to go, and Paulie is up into second. Slingshots past Stu Eatock, bumps onto the curbs, 2 wheels in the air, and still keeps the throttle pinned. And Darren Beres is probably nearly having kittens right now, because he sees a certain Chris Paulie in his rearview mirrors. But this is not just a 3-car fight anymore, because you look in the background, John Finch, Craig Durant and Ben Weston coming to play with these.
Indeed, this is turning into a superb second race, actually, Alex. And all credit to Darren Beres, who has driven superbly. With Michael Clough here, I think we're going to see what's happened when they... It was the smoke in the way. I don't think he couldn't get out of the way, could he?
No, and you could see that Jack Ajewski's rear left suspension was hanging off as Chris Paulie now tries to go for the lead off of Darren Beres. And now Stu Eatock has said, well, hang on, you two want to scrap? I'll bring the fight to you as well. And they're not giving any quarter here whatsoever. So it's a Royal Air Force 1-2 at the moment, with Beres ahead of Paulie. Stu Eatock is in third, Craig Durant is in fourth, and the top 5 at the moment, folks, covered by just over a second and a half. So this race is going to come down to the wire. Could we see a drag race like we saw between who was it? I think it was Tom Stevens and Craig Durant for third place, but we could see one for the race lead. Nice to see we got a brief indication of the speed, 150 kilometres an hour, which is about 90 miles an hour going out of Clark Curve. So now they go onto the brakes, down a gear or two, through into Paddock Hill Bend, and Craig Durant is really pressurising Stu Eatock going into Druids. He's going to look to the outside, now try and get the undercut. Is that going to work for him? Not on this particular occasion, but with just 3 minutes left, we're probably going to have this, and we might have 2, maybe 3 laps at a push.
This is terrific stuff. Brilliant racing. It really is.
Yeah. Darren Beres has just got a couple of laps to defend from Chris Paulie to become the second different race winner tonight. And Paulie makes a little bit of a unusual exit. I think he straddled the curbing coming out of Surtees, but now we've got Craig Durant. We're on board with him in the cockpit at the moment, going into Hawthorns. It's going to look to slingshot up the inside of Stu Eatock. Eatock keeps it pinned there. Great racing respect between the pair, but Beres has made a mistake. Paulie's up his inside through into Westfield, and now Paulie's got the race lead. Beres, I think, just carried a bit too much speed through Hawthorns into Westfield, and then Paulie saw the door open and bang, he pounced. Durrant's ahead of Eatock. Now Finch is there, Weston is there. Oh, this is getting rather feisty.
Very tasty stuff indeed, and this is the sort of racing that we want to see. But as you say, good disciplined driving from all the drivers so far in these top races. And well, this race could go either way. It could go anywhere at the moment, because it just needs one little mistake and suddenly the lead changes. We saw Darren just make a short mistake there, and Craig Paulie pounced the way Craig has been doing throughout the evening so far. Superb first race for him, finishing in second place. Can he go one better and take the checkered flag? We'll see.
Well, we've got one more lap after this, because we've got just 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining on the clock. Chris Paulie now starting to extend the lead over Darren Beres, who has led it for quite a bit. Gap between them is about 0.7 of a second. Craig Durant will look to go one better than third position last time out in round number 13. of the BFBS AFVRC here at Brands Hatch GP. Enthralling racing that we've been seeing all night long, and it is set to continue right down to the death, so to speak, but it just depends on who can get the best run down through Pilgrim's Drop into the right-hander here now at Hawthorns, down them into straights, then it's the next right-hander, so it's a triple right here, very deceiving in terms of undulation and camber. So they go through into Westfields, now down through Dingle Dell. Top 4 covered by a second, with one more lap to go after this. Paulie still leading the way, but Beres has closed on in. That gap is less than 0.3 of a second. Durant waiting in the wings. He's got the ringside seat. Now they come out of Stirling's, down Clearways. One more lap to go, so the white flag will be out. As Beres very late under braking going through into Clark Curve, but the white flag, we're going to have the checker this time. So Chris Paulie pounced at the right time. We are going to run out of time here, but it looks like Paulie's going to win by just under 0.4 of a second. Beres, despite leading for quite a bit, takes second place. Craig
He'll
Durant
take that.
He will definitely take that. And Stu Eatock on the final lap of the race picks the fastest lap of the race out of anybody, 1 minute 38.09. John Finch takes fifth in the 886, a good recovery for him after a very dismal race number 1. And then it's Ben Weston, Luke Arpino, Adam Waters. Then we've got Chris Slater and Adam Barron rounding out the top 10. So some good work by those guys. Ryan Abbots takes 11th. Steve Ward, biggest mover of the second race, takes 12th, finishing having started 23rd. So he was on the penultimate grid position. Out of everybody. There's Matty Chambers, who's number 44 Toyota GR86. Might have seen better days, but it hasn't in race 1. It hasn't been the best for him. Hopefully he'll come back at the next round for week 8, as we wait for our final few finishers to cross the start-finish line. As there is Chambers, he's got Dan Hardwick's just gone off. Cluffy is still circulating. He's going to be the last of the 20 finishers, but Chris Paulie makes it 2 for the Royal Air Force in terms of victory, but 2 different winners after Ryan Martin's sudden exodus from the race, and pretty much with about close to 3 laps in, he was out for the count and couldn't do anything about it. There's Matty Chambers in the number 44 crossing line. Dan Hardwick now making his way through, and Cluffy, last but by certainly no means least, will be making his way across the line, and that is the end of week 7 of the season. What
a satisfying evening it's been for Chris Paulie. Second in that first race, winning the second race there, and also a very satisfying evening, I think, for Darren Beres, 5th in the first race, and getting a second place out. Certainly his best AFVRC so far this season. So that's really good from both of them.
Exactly. There's your results. It was an RAF 1-2 with Chris Paulie winning race 2 here tonight for week 7. Darren Beres finishing just under 0.4 of a second behind, and see the gaps between first to fourth, folks. Everyone was separated by less than a second, or maybe in some points it was between first and second, less than 0.4. So Chris Paulie takes the win for race 2 of week 7. Darren Beres in second position. Craig Durant rounds out the top 3 ahead of Stu Eatock, John Finch, Ben Weston, Luke Arpino, Adam Waters, Chris Slater and Adam Barron rounding out the top 10, covered by 10.7 seconds at the end of 9 laps of racing. We did come down to the wire because they were battling so hard. Ryan Abbott, Steve Ward, Rhys Bowers, Tom Stevens, Colin Scott and Glenn Griffin rounding out the top 16, all finishing on, we had also Ollie Wayne and Matty Chambers. Then you've also got Dan Hardwick and Cluffy rounding out the 20 that finished. Jakajewski with major left rear suspension damage would end up retiring. Linda Noble, she's, you know what, I have to give credit for that never give up attitude from Linda. No matter when she's competing, she's going to give it her all, and it's great to see her on the grid. Ryan Martin, unfortunately, no bueno this time around, and Liam Waterhouse was out very, very early indeed. But let's have a chat with our race winner for round number 14 of the BFBS Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. Let's bring in Chris Paulie, if we can.
Who's there?
He is there, Chris. Well, one person's misfortune is another's gain, but to pick up that win, the battle between you, Darren, Craig and Stu right up until the death was absolutely mesmerising. How are you feeling after that one?
Well, I can breathe. It was, quite a race. I mean, started in 11th after the reverse grid, and I got off to a really good start. And obviously, you can kind of gauge yourself against Ryan Martin really to see where he also makes his way through the pack. And I managed to get a few places ahead of him on the first lap. And then you can see first place just in front of me, and I thought, you know what, as long as I can keep out of trouble, there's a chance at a win. And just lap by lap, I just started picking people off, and had a good battle with Darren Berris. It's great to see him up there as well. A little heart in my mouth moment when he went wide on the grass, but kept it together, and bloody hell, great to get my first race win of the season as well. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, that helps to close the gap slightly to Ryan. I mean, he further extended his championship lead after the first race tonight, but you're his closest competitor. We know for a fact you're going to try and give him a run for his money as much as you can all the way through the rest of the season, aren't you?
Yeah, and this whole season I've just been picking up the second places, third places, fourth places, and just kind of being a bit of a journeyman and just trying to be consistent really and just get good results. And obviously as the season's gone on, it seems to have got a bit stronger. There's definitely a bit of a pace gap still to Ryan. Obviously Stu McFadden and Will Folks on here tonight, they're pretty quick too. But obviously you've got to make the most of it when you can, and I've been pretty lucky with staying out of trouble there, especially towards the end. But buzzing with the win.
Final question, Chris, before we let you go tonight. Alton Park Island Circuit is next up for week 8 for the next 2 rounds. Thoughts on how do you think you're going to do at the circuit?
Dreadful carnage. Probably one of my least favourite circuits, to be honest.
Are you preempting, so to speak?
No, God no. God no. I'll tell you what, actually today, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of it, but it seems to have been really, really clean racing tonight. I'll watch the stream back, and maybe I'll but as with the rest of the season, it's been brilliant racing. And credit to everyone who's involved tonight.
Brilliant. Well, Chris, thank you very much for again talking to myself and John tonight. Well done for the win in race 2, and thanks very much again.
Yes, guys, have a good evening. Thanks.
I think as well, we should pay tribute as well to Craig Durrant as well tonight, yes. Alex, because he's had 2 third places. Craig's not had the easiest of championships so far. Not really got off to a brilliant start for him for the British Army, but 2 very creditable performances tonight, and you get two podiums on the same night, and it's pretty good going, especially when there's such a big difference between the grid positions. From the spin of the dice. So he's done really well tonight. Should be really pleased.
Yeah, indeed. We have to say a big thank you to the members of the Royal Air Force, the British Army and the British Navy for taking part, that do so week in, week out. I'd like to say a big thank you to the partners and backers of the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge, of course, the British Forces Broadcasting Service, Splunk, and also we've got racecarradios.co.uk for their welcome to support this. And we have to also say a big thank you to Mike Yao and the team at Sim Sports Solutions for providing this broadcast week in, week out. Next week, the 18th of April, is week number 8, Alton Park Island Circuit. So what can we expect? Well, who's going to bring the fight to Ryan Martin is the biggest question that we need to have answered. I'm sure that maybe with the likes of maybe Stu McFadden when he returns, Chris Pawley has shown his might tonight, Craig Durrant could have a run of momentum going into next week. John, your final thoughts before we close up tonight? Yeah, I mean, I think this has highlighted tonight some drivers who have not really seen too much of before. Certainly, Darren Berris. Delighted to see Darren. He'll be really pleased with that 5th place and a podium tonight, and maybe Darren's going to make a late run for it as well in the second part. Also, good to see Chris Slater also getting a top 10 position tonight. But Ryan Martin's going to be really difficult to dislodge from that top position, but it'd be interesting to know why he was missing for so much of that second race. Maybe he'll be able to tell us next week. Indeed. Well, that's it from myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and John Knight, and this has been a Sim Sports Solutions broadcast for week number 7 of the BFBS Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. Until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.